Wow. It's been a while, guys. It's been a long time coming, guys. I think I'm voted back on as co-host of the Gainz podcast. This is beginning notes of my acceptance of being co-host. But what's going on, guys? This is the Gainz podcast. Welcome back to another great episode. I'm with my boy,
Roman Long.
And I'm Antoine. And we're here to give you the Shaquille O'Neal episode number 34. Keeping it in the basketball tradition. Let's get it.
I was going to say David Ortiz, but yeah, we can go with Shaq.
Well, most of these fans, I mean, we've got one big supporter in the MA. And, actually, what? One of my buddies that listens to the show, he's a Red Sox fan, too. Wow, never mind. Maybe I should go with that one. Sure, David Ortiz is a good player.
This is the, today we're going to be talking about the, maybe one of the biggest, the most provocative of the big three lifts. Some would call it the Shaq of lift. Deadlifting, baby!
Yeah, dude, Shaquille O'Neal is the Diesel. His nickname was the Diesel. So if I'm not right about that, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't.
He easily rack pulls like 6 hundo for 12. Easily.
This guy, he co-hosts basketball games and ESPN by day. At night, he's spending it at clubs and partially DJing. I mean, can you stop the guy?
He can't be stopped. He cannot be stopped. Doesn't he have like a size 21 shoe or something like that?
I don't know what it is, but I know I'll never fit in it.
One of like the first things I think he did when he like really like made it big as an NBA basketball player is I think he like ordered a custom bed.
Oh yeah, it's like one of the biggest beds that was ever made.
Yeah. It's pretty ridiculous. Man, can you imagine being a 7-foot tall dude like today, just like walking around?
First off, my back would hurt. Second off, housing would be a weird situation because nothing's made for a 7-foot person. Nothing at all. Nothing's made for a 6-foot person either.
He's gonna make sure he reads like all those signs if he ever walks under arches. Like 6'8", dude, I can't go under there. I gotta find an alternative route.
I must climb over. What are we talking about? What are we talking about today, Roman? What are we?
We're talking about deadlifting, baby. We're talking about deadlift. We're talking about conventional deadlift. We're talking about sumos. We're gonna be talking about what populations should be doing them. Can it benefit a bodybuilder? Is that how Phil Heath got his huge back? Can it benefit a powerlifter? You bet it can. Can it benefit the general population? Well, according to Robert Oberst, no. That's a one-way ticket to Snap City, baby. So, we're going to be covering all your questions today.
Part 3.
No problems. Part 3 of the powerlifting series. We might bring you a part 4, a sneak preview of how to program these. Stay tuned, folks. Stay tuned. Antoine, my man, how would you teach deadlifting, either conventional or sumo, to a bodybuilder?
Yeah, so first off, if you pull sumo, you're pretty much a cheater. You shouldn't go to competitions. If you record your sumos, you probably should be kicked off Instagram. I don't know. What's the big deal about it?
I know. I don't know. People get all upset because you have a higher starting point. I think. I don't know. It's BS because like it's a challenging lift like at like either portion, and you should essentially lift to like whatever your mechanical advantages are, or like lift to like whatever lift you like find is like baller and fun for you.
Yeah. To that point too. So pretty much to explain the deadlift, it's probably one of the most squatting too. is probably a pretty easy way to generalize a definition. But pretty much a deadlift is a compound movement where you're set up behind a barbell. Your hands are set either outside of your legs or inside of your legs if you're pulling sumo. So conventional would be pretty much most of the time. I don't. Well, no, I don't think they would consider your hands inside your legs conventional. But pretty much you are picking the load off the ground. You're standing up with it. You're not tiptoeing. You're just standing with flat feet. You're trying to pull it with your full body and using your full body. That is considered a deadlift. Now, on the point of conventional and sumo, one might note that your hands are usually on the outskirts of where your legs are. So pretty much if you think about it, anything from your feet, both your feet either close by touching or even shoulder width apart, that's going to be considered a conventional deadlift and with your hands outside of those legs. And that's pulling up from the ground, a conventional deadlift. Sumo is anything, because the thing is sumo and conventional, your stances could change with your body type and your mechanics. I would consider a sumo anything inside your legs. So if you even your legs are a little bit further out than your shoulders, and you bend over and you pull the bar with your hands inside your legs, I'd consider that a sumo. If you think of the sumo where it came from, the term, if you've ever watched sumo wrestling or know what a sumo wrestler is, that stance where they're like, their legs are out and they're pretty much like squatting, but their legs are like almost as far as possible. Think of that, but putting a barbell in front of your feet. Another thing is too with the deadlift. You if you don't know this exercise, the whole point of the deadlift is to pull with your whole body and not specifically, you're not supposed to fall apart where your shoulders round over. You're picking the barbell up kind of like a cat where your back is pretty much rounded the whole time. So it's a movement where you want to be safe and be clear to be able to do the lift first. And then I think the next part before you start getting into like a program or something in that nature, I would probably suggest, trying to see what your body mechanics like or what method looks like and feels the easiest. And a lot of people too as well. And by experience of myself, when it comes to form and formality, I have been pulling conventional pretty much the whole time. Sumo is something that I try to teach myself. I was actually going to switch over to sumo during this period of time, but since I haven't been in a gym, I don't have a barbell. Please, people, reach out to me. But I don't have a barbell, so someone like me that's a seasoned lifter that's been deadlifting for over 5 years now or so. I don't know the exact number, but someone like me, I pull conventional. I am, like we were mentioning earlier, I'm just a little bit over 6 foot, 6'1", 6'2", 6'2" on a good day. And right now I weigh around 192. And pretty much like, even someone like me who's a seasoned lifter is trying to learn sumo. So that being said, another thing too about form is if you start with sumo or conventional and later down the road, if you want to train the other method, it's not going to hurt you. I mean, Ed Cohn is a big believer of you doing repetitions on repetitions. So if you want to probably be the best, I would probably suggest to do more of what feels better and what's easier for you. And it's going to benefit you in the long run. So I'm going to stop there. Roman, you go if you want to talk about, I would say, I don't know if you want to add anything, and then let's talk about bodybuilding first and powerlifting and Gen Pop.
Yeah. I don't know if I'd necessarily program deadlifting, to be honest with you, for a bodybuilder at this point. I just think there's like so many more like movements that could hit the so many other movements that could hit the back really effectively. But that's not like that people always want to look for like these like one size fits all like responses. So I guess it would depend on like who the person was. Like if you're a bikini competitor, like a big thing that a lot of bikini competitors are looking to do is essentially like grow the size of their glutes. Like that's a top priority for a lot of bikini competitors. So if that's the case, pulling sumo might be your most effective tool at doing that. Like possibly even more effective than squatting, possibly even more effective than the hip thrust. The reason why I say that is squatting, highly technical lift, and many people will like self-report like, I feel pain in my knees when I squat. I feel pain in my low back when I squat. I feel pain here, X, Y, Z. That's can be because of like improper mechanics. It can be because it's based off of like maybe like your tempo is incorrect, and that's like kind of like messing with your mechanics or your form. There's a lot that like could be impact there, but like deadlifting or just like picking something up off the ground is such a like a brutal and essential like part of our day to day. Not that like squatting isn't, but like you will notice like just kind of like watching like general population, like some people like as opposed to like kind of like controlling their descent, they like might just flop into chairs, and sometimes it's because like they're in pain. Sometimes it's because like it's just like how they've like learned to squat essentially. So not that I like necessarily wouldn't program for anybody. I just think that there's like a lot of better lifts. But for like somebody like a bikini competitor, I could see like sumo deadlift being like super potent, super powerful tool for growing their glutes, and that's something.
Growing the glutes.
Growing the glutes. The character from what is it?
Groot from what's it?
Galaxy.
The Guardians of
the Galaxy. There we go. Oh man, people are probably yelling at us at this moment. They're like, Guardians of the Galaxy. Yes, you got it, listener. Thank you. I'll go over a couple like ways that I would probably like cue like form for a bodybuilder or for a for Gen Pop. Like for a powerlifter, man, like you can't fight it. You have to deadlift. So there's like no group other than them that like necessarily has to do it. I think that there's like a lot of benefits that the bodybuilding population could use it for, and there's a lot of benefits that like the Gen Pop population could use it for. One group in particular, if you're doing like a specialization cycle, if you feel like as a bodybuilder, whether like natural or enhanced, that your spinal erectors, like your overall back development, is something that is lagging, I think that's something that deadlifts can really bring up your physique, and it might be like one of the cornerstone lifts of building a physique, meaning that like maybe years 0 to 5, that might be like part of the meat and potatoes, like squatting, different variations of the bench, like hitting flat bench, incline bench, different like vertical pressing movements. Like those are cornerstone movements, compound movements of like building somebody's physique up. After that, you might have some like fudge room where you can like get away without using it. But that being said, like if you found that like a weak point in your physique was your spinal erectors, I really don't think that there's like another greater lift to help build them. Hyperextensions are a great like supplement, and they get like you a great back pump. But I mean, that's like isolating like the low back. It's kind of hard to like figure out how like you can like work like the thoracic spine in there and like build up that part of your spinal erectors. Like it might be good for the glutes, but it's like missing out something else. The deadlifts, it hits all of that. When it comes to general population, I think deadlifting can teach people like proper mechanics of how to pick something up off the ground, because oftentimes, you will see people like a very hunched over back. They're in like a very mechanically disadvantageous position. I'll see people trying to like pull things like far away from your body. So whether it's conventional, so I like the way Antoine defines it. So it's essentially a deadlift where you're picking something up where your hands are outside of the knees, or a sumo deadlift where you're picking something up with your elbows inside of the knees, your hands inside of the knees. You're going to want to get nice and snug to the bar. Does that mean that you're going to be like touching the bar before you bend down? No, the general rule of thumb is you want the bar for conventional somewhere over your shoelaces, and to a degree that when you get down into the position and you grab onto the bar, whether you're doing hook grip, kind of like that, whether you're doing just like conventional overhand, or whether you're doing a mixed grip, one overhand, one underhand, it's important to leave a little bit of space so that you can bring your shins to the bar, and you're going to want to keep it nice and tight. Some people will want to wear taller socks because you really should get some high degree of friction on your shins, no matter like how you're pulling. Not so much with sumo, but you can, especially on like the as you get into the middle part of the pulling phase, the second pull, if you will. On conventional deadlift, like the whole way, I've come home with like bloody shins. You don't have to be like that extreme, but it's really important that you keep the object nice and tight, because you want to keep it close to your center of gravity. That's where your pulling is the strongest. Any further out in front of you is going to be mechanically disadvantageous, and it's going to have the tendency to create shear forces on your spine, meaning that it's going to want to make your spine go like this more. So not that that's like necessitates a bad thing. It doesn't, but we want to train our back to stay nice and tight and rigid when we're doing that, because anywhere that weight or force can spill out of our body, like no matter whether it's like squat, bench, deadlift, that's a missed opportunity to be able to move that weight more efficiently. So that's why it's really important to create as rigid as a body as possible. So whatever your foot distance is, whether sumo or conventional, we want to make sure that it's got a relatively close proximity to our shins, where it's not going to get too out in front of us. When we're grabbing the bar, we want to determine a grip that we're going to stick with and stick to it. So one mistake that I made somewhat early on in like these past like 2 years of deadlifting again, I would alter my grip at a certain weight. So I get to a certain weight, usually like about like 225, 245, 275 pounds, where my wrist flexors or like my forearm muscles were not strong enough to hold the bar conventional overhand. So what I would do is I would then switch to a mixed grip. What I would advise is, if you anticipate that happening, where you are finding there's a place where your wrist flexors or your forearm muscles are the limiting factor, take that out of the equation and switch to mixed grip or switch to a hook grip and focus on that for like a whole block, let's say like 12 weeks, and just stick to that throughout like your whole warm-ups, everything, every single set. Keep it as consistent as possible. Why? The reason why I like that is because that prepares the tissues in a certain way, and you can always change back. I would just like to see you be consistent for a whole single block and not change, let's say, when the weight gets too heavy. Because what I found is I do get a little bit of joint soreness when let's say I pull conventional overhand up until I get to a certain weight, because now my wrist flexors are they're adapted, or they're used to like a certain weight and a certain pulling tendency, and then by changing my grip to like a mixed grip, for example, they're now not used to that stimulus, so it's a different stimulus, and I'd find that I'd beat up my wrists, or most predictably my elbows would get beat up when I did that, other than like practicing mixed grip the whole way up. So I would say whatever grip you're going to do, just keep that grip consistent for like a time period. You can obviously change. I think it's good to change every once in a while, but keep it consistent for a good chunk of period. I'll recommend 12 weeks, but you can kind of change that to your will.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up grip, because that's something I totally forgot to bring up when I was first introducing it. But yeah, I mean, grip is really important, and I did the same thing as Roman. Like, I would train double overhand, which means pretty much your hands are pronated and your palms are facing the ground, and you're grabbing the bar, just with your both hands like that. Obviously, mixed grip, one is going to be supinated, or one's going to be with your palm up to the sky and one with the palm down to the ground. And depending on what is more comfortable too, I mean, I'm a right-handed guy, and for me personally, I do my right hand supinated with my palm up and my palm down on my left hand. Um, what I've noticed is people do it the opposite way as right-handers. I'm not sure if that's the truth. Like, Roman, when you do mixed grip, do you do right hand up, or is it?
No, I do left hand up.
Yeah, that's so weird, isn't it? I don't know why. I've always pulled like that. I'm a righty too. I'm right dominant for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess that's just like what I've found is comfortable, and I've tried the other way, and it just like it feels like awkward. It doesn't hurt, but it's just awkward. So I'm just like, all right, well, this is like how I'm gonna lift then.
Yeah, and when it comes to like, I don't know, I with like the double overhand, yes, like you're like Roman was saying, like the grip is gonna be like the first to go, or your forearms are the limiting factors, or your wrist extenders. Would I suggest like doing that to warm up? Like Roman was saying, probably not. I think with the deadlift, since you're trying to specialize into it, kind of like what I was saying about Ed Cohn, is I would try to keep the grip the same no matter what when it comes to even warming up. Because when you get to like 500 pounds and, you know, you're warming up with 300 plus, 400 plus, you know, when you do the double overhand, or like let's say if you do the mixed grip or if you do mixed grip and then you for some reason do hook grip at the end, like, you know, that's going to change movement pattern. And yes, like if you do it enough, your body will kind of understand. But in my opinion, I don't think it's going to matter that much. And I don't think it's going to make, like, in my opinion, like, I don't think it's going to make your grip strength better if you do double overhand so much. Like, that's just stuff that you'll just get over time. Like, I still can't double overhand. I mean, I could double overhand probably like something over 315, but like, it doesn't feel that comfortable. And I'd rather do a mixed grip because I feel stronger. It feels more comfortable, and it pulls my body into that position.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Just like anecdotally, that's exactly like what happened to me. It's so funny. Like it was almost like the same time last year, but Billy and I were working out at LA, and like I was really pumped, man. Like deadlift was going up, and we were gonna be doing like we were just like messing around with 315 essentially, and I was like, I'm gonna like kind of do like a max out, see how many like reps I can get, and I pulled it overhand once, and then the grip slipped, and then the next set I was like, I can get four. I can get four with a mixed grip, but that was my first set that I was doing it mixed grip. All the other sets were overhand working up. So it was like, 95, 135, 185, 225, 275, 315 overhand. Yeah. And I'm like, I'm just going to do like mixed grip 315 by 4. I got it like on the fourth rep. It was like sketchy. Like I definitely needed to like kind of deload after that because I was like pushing it. But my left elbow like had like this dull pain in the elbow, and I think it was because I had I hadn't warmed up with mixed grip, and I just like shifted to that. So I kind of like played around with it for a while, but it wasn't until I like really thought about it. I was like, if I'm gonna do a certain grip at like heavier weights, I should probably warm up with that grip as well. And as soon as I did that, like the elbow pain went away.
Yeah.
So it was like one of those those epiphanies. You're like, oh, I was being a jackass the whole time. Like just like you have to like you do like to a certain degree you have to break it up and think like, is this like tissue warm? Is this like muscle? Like are the tendons like warm? Are they prepped to like perform this movement in this movement pattern as I'd like to perform them?
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's helpful. It's very abstract.
Yeah, and then like the one other thing too, Roman kind of mentioned it, but pretty much hook grip for people like in the Gen Pop world, and not like obviously powerlifters usually will know what this is, or Olympic lifters depending on who you listen. But pretty much hook grip is pretty much if you put your wrap your thumbs around the bar and both your hands are palms facing the ground. If you wrap your thumbs around the bar and then grab your thumb on the bar, and so pretty much your four fingers are over your thumb, and then you pull that way, and obviously you want to pull the same amount of grip strength throughout the whole lift, because if you do loosen, you will feel a hell of a lot of pain in your thumb, just off previous experience. That one grip is nice, and supposedly sometimes it could help and benefit people from tearing their biceps with the deadlift, because sometimes people would say if you do a mixed grip, that one arm might tear a bicep or pull a bicep eventually because of the training on it. But if you do a hook grip, in my opinion, I wouldn't train it on like a standard barbell. I would train it on like a deadlift barbell, unless you have some mitts. I mean, I have pretty big hands, and standard barbells are still too thick, in my opinion, to get that advantage of hook grip. Because usually if you have like an actual deadlift bar, they're a little bit thinner. They're thinner bars, so you can actually, if you have smaller hands, or, I guess mine are average to bigger hands, you'd be able to hook grip a hell of a lot better and be able to pull with a hook grip. So I just wanted to throw that out there as well.
Yeah. There's the more like I look into it, there's a lot to a hook grip. So like, for example, one thing that like a lot of I hear a lot of powerlifters like don't think about apparently is to chalk up the top part of your thumb, because that's what you're gripping onto.
You're gripping on top. Yeah.
So you want to make sure you get a good like dosing of chalk on your hands. Like, let's say you're like lifting in a federation that doesn't allow what do they call versa grips or anything along those lines, and you can only use chalk. Where you're gonna want to chalk up your hands, but also chalk up the underside of your thumbs, because that's gonna be something that you're gripping onto. There's a particular way that you should be gripping the bar. So you should be gripping the bar where you're coming overhand, and then you're actually taking the slack out of your wrist. Maybe we can do like a demo of it sometime.
Yeah.
But essentially what you want to do is you want to cock your wrist in a certain way, essentially like pointing you want to adduct the wrist or point it out, so that you can get as much surface area of your hands as possible on the bar. Make it as tight as possible while you're gripping it.
Yeah. And then another thing for grip, I know it's a good amount on grip. I don't know if
that's helpful to our listeners, but
yeah, and like another thing for grip, me personally, like and we didn't really go too much over equipment for the deadlift. Me personally, I don't use straps or Versa grips most of the time with deadlift. I like the natural part of like gripping a bar, so I usually just use chalk. On Amazon, chalk, you can get like 6 or 7 bricks for like $10. I've actually given Roman like a brick of chalk before, but it's fairly cheap. Don't be one of those guys that like throw chalk all over. Just get a Ziploc container and do it over the Ziploc, and then just rub off the extra stuff. Get a decent amount, nothing caked on, and you should be able to have like a better grip if you're experiencing like a grip slipping out of your hands, or if you need that little extra like power when it comes to grip, because sometimes people's hands can get really sweaty just from the natural oils and everything. So
yeah, you can find it at Walmart too. So like if you're on the way to the store and you're like, hey, I want to try chalk out, and you forgot to buy it off Amazon or whatever, you don't have Amazon Prime, you can't get it like overnighted to you. I've seen it in like the fitness area in Walmart as well. So I'm sure like most sporting goods stores should have it too.
Or, I mean, you could just spit on your hands, rub it together, and just deadlift the bar, right?
That's a deal. Couple more things quick before we wrap up. So if you're lifting conventional, we've covered grip. One thing that I see a lot of beginning lifters, like a movement fault, I would say, would be having the butt come up like much before like the pull actually starts. So you can actually set your butt to like the top part of like your like what your body would allow. So when you you go down like bars over your shoelaces, you bring the bar to your shins, you take the preferred grip that you'd like. Now set your butt up in the sky as high as it can go while you're still maintaining a neutral spine. So don't allow your back to hunch over like it's collapsing in on itself, like you're a roly-poly-oly. Keep it nice and tight, but with your butt up in the air. And that's essentially going to be like the starting position for conventional. For deadlift, it's going to be, you're going to be much more upright. So your body's going to be almost like you're trying to like force yourself to have like a really upright posture. So it's going to be totally different, but that's like a good tip for anyone that's pulling conventional. Whether you're pulling conventional or sumo, you always want to set the lats. So the way I do that is I'll go left, right, or right, left. I think usually left, right. But if you don't know how to do that, just like put your right hand on like the slab of meat under your left armpit, and then the best way to develop like a mind muscle connection or MMC with your lat is to try to flex the lat. And the way I do that is I just bring my elbow down and also out away from the body, and you can feel the lat start to contract. Once you can feel that and you develop that connection, that would be quote unquote setting the lat. Now move over to the right lat, put your left hand on the right lat and bring the elbow down and or out. It might be different for each people. It works best if I bring the elbow down slightly and I can flex and feel the lat. Now, when I grab the bar, I'm going to set my lats, boom, boom. That's going to keep my spine nice and rigid. I like to perform the Valsalva maneuver, where I take a deep breath in, into the gut. I press my abdomen out, either against a belt, if you're wearing a belt, or just like out in general. And I tighten up my core as much as I possibly can. And now I'm ready for the pull. So I'm going to take the slack out of the bar. You'll hear the you'll hear that ringing in the gym oftentimes. That's a good sound because that's a decently seasoned lifter, because what they're doing is they're taking the slack out of the bar. So they're taking it out of their arms, they're taking it out of their back, they're taking the slack out of their legs, everything. And now you're ready to pull. So you've got the deep breath in your belly and you're just going to pull, stand the bar up.
And that's how you pull life by the bar.
Last thing, do you support people just dropping the bar from the top of a deadlift, or do you prefer to have like a nice and like slow controlled eccentric?
I'd have to say slow and concentric down.
I just feel like it demonstrates like such a mastery of like the lift and like such control of the weight.
Because you don't do that. You don't do that with the standard lift. Like you don't pick something up and just drop it from the top even. Yeah. I mean, it's just like safety protocol for even like Gen Pop, who are gonna be deadlifting on a normal day basis too.
I know why CrossFitters do it, because like they do so many reps and it's a way in which you can reduce the overall amount of fatigue. But I mean, that's kind of like the point of doing deadlifts, is that like the eccentric portion is like a critical part of like muscle building and also like strength building. So I think like from a powerlifter's perspective, if they're always dropping the bar from the top, like they can miss out on a lot of like top end strength.
Yeah.
As we already covered, like bodybuilders, like you can program it if you want. It's probably not like the best for like muscle growth unless you're trying to focus on like a particular area. And then Gen Pop in particular, like, dude, are you just gonna drop your like heavy ass like
couch
like,
or?
Yeah, exactly. Are you gonna drop it from the top, or are you gonna like carefully
on the hardwood floor?
So Gen Pop might be most important to like carefully, slowly like bring it down to the ground.
Feel it, yeah.
Sweet deal, buddy.
I think that's it.
Man, another great episode.
Yeah, let you end this one. I'll set you thankfully, graciously, and I'm blessed to do that intro. So I'm gonna let you end this one.
Gainz Nation, thanks for tuning in to another great episode 34. Today we covered the deadlift. We might have a special powerlifting episode for you next week, so make sure you tune in. every Friday. YouTube, Stitcher, what do we got? Buzzsprout, iTunes, all the channels, the YouTubes. Check us out. We'd appreciate it. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you want to give us a comment, you say, hey, Gainz Nation, let's cover this, or I got a question about this. Leave a comment in the comment section. And if you really, 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 really like the channel, why don't you give Mr. Coletta a subscribe? Thanks for tuning in, Gainz Nation. Happy day. We'll see you on that next one.
And also subscribe to Roman's channel. We're trying to get him to 100 so he can change his darn URL.
Yes.
All right, guys. We'll see you on the next one. Peace.
Bye.